Alex,
Yes, Tyler.
my Instagram and news feeds are flooded by one individual thing.
And what is that?
A tiny monkey.
Yes.
I love Punch.
Not just a tiny monkey.
The tiny
monkey.
I love him.
His name is Punch.
Punch is adorable.
He's adorable. He's a Japanese macaque.
Yes.
Yes.
Who's been
He's
ostracized by
fantastic.
his captive family
Yes.
and seeks solace in a plush orangutan.
Yes. But he is making friends. He's finally starting to make some friends.
Yes. Me and Alex were playing a board game last night, and Punch made its way into the board game somehow.
He did.
Yeah.
That he did. It was great.
Well, anyways, welcome to Life the Complete Story. As always, we are your hosts, Tyler and Alex. And make sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yes. Email at Life Complete Story for all the updates on everything that we post. We will start how we always start with our nature in the news. Alex, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the Atacama Desert. It is known as the world's driest desert, but recent research has found that in the soil of this incredibly dry desert, there is life in the form of some little nematodes.
I hate nematodes with a passion, but they just look weird. They look like pinworms.
Little worm guys.
They're
just little worm guys.
I know.
But they're not like a proper worm, like an annelid that's just like, yes, that's a worm, like you go fishing with.
They're roundworms, aren't they?
Night crawlers and earthworms?
No.
Those are annelids.
No. Nematodes are roundworms.
Yes, nematodes are roundworms.
Yeah, because there's 3 different types of worms. We covered this before, way long ago.
Yes.
In the way back, I just had a jog of his memory, Don't get mad at me.
Yeah.
Get mad at the people for also forgetting with me.
We have roundworms, flatworms, and segmented worms.
There was an episode of SpongeBob with roundworms. With
the nematodes, yeah.
And they just ate everything. That's probably why I don't like nematodes, actually.
Honestly, probably. So tell us about the nematodes in the desert.
Yeah, so nematodes
in Chile is where the Atacama Desert is. So South America.
Nematodes are very important for a lot of soil ecosystems. They kind of play the role of everything in terms of like bacteria mitigation, nutrient cycling, and are just a general like overall soil health indicator, similar to how like some invertebrate species are water health indicators. We've talked about that in the past. They also have a very high level of adaptability. They're like archaic bacteria where they can survive in nearly everything from the freezing cold to heavy rainfall to high salt content, which makes it no surprise that we're finding these nematodes in the soils of the driest desert in the world.
Yes.
And part of what helps them is they can reproduce asexually, so they don't need to find a mate. I'm not sure how they do it. I don't know if it's budding or if it's just like hermaphrodism. I'm going to go with hermaphrodism.
It might be a combination, actually. Because if I remember correctly, nematode, like roundworms can reproduce, like if you cut them in half, they...
like a platyhelminth can.
Yeah.
But what this is showing is that you can have these stable soil ecosystems, because if you don't have a stable soil ecosystem, you don't have anything. But we're seeing that in even the most desolate, dry, terrible environments, you can still have stable soil. This was published by the University of Cologne, which is Poland? Isn't Cologne in Poland or something?
I'm pretty sure.
It's in Europe. I know that.
It's in Germany.
We split the difference. Call it Germany.
Yeah, we were out here close enough. We tried.
And part of why this is so relevant is because of the global climate change and everything. We're seeing an increase in aridity worldwide. So that's when more places are becoming drier and more desert-like. So understanding that we can still have a healthy soil ecosystem in a drier environment helps us understand how the worldwide expansion of aridity will fare long-term. But anything else to add, Alex?
No, sir. I think, guys, nice short little one today.
That'll move us on into our lesson. We're still continuing our frog talk, Neobatrachia. We have 3 more groups to cover today. Our first group, Alex, is going to be Heliofrenidae, if you want to talk about them.
A picture. Zoom. Picture. Bingo. All right. So Heliofrenidae, these are the ghost frogs. They live in the swift-moving mountain streams of South Africa. Originally thought to be close relatives to Zooglossidae of Seychelles or Myobatrachidae of Australia, but they have now been separated into their own sister group of all other members of Neobatrachia, diverging about 140 million years ago. These are mostly medium-sized frogs in that 2.5-inch range. They have fairly flat bodies, which enable them to climb between rocky crevices, which you can kind of see in the picture I pulled up there. Relatively flat and kind of wide, especially you can really see it at the head. And they have large toe discs to help them cling to rocks. There are 2 genera. Am I reading this correctly?
Yes.
2 genera, okay. So our first genus is Hadromophrinae. These are the natal ghost frogs found in Lesotho, South Africa, and Eswatini. They are a common species found throughout the mountain forests and grasslands. They live and breed around those fast-flowing mountain streams, often above waterfalls, which limits the amount of fish that could eat the young and them as well. So that's kind of a smart move on their part. The adults will live in those rock crevices, but they require those streams to be permanent streams, not like wet season, like drainage streams, because the larval development can take up to 2 years. So it can take up to 2 years for those tadpoles to become mature frogs.
I think that's crazy because we've talked about a lot of frogs, and some of these frogs only have like lifespans of like 6 years.
Yeah. They like their larval development is like 2 weeks, if not less. Yeah. So that is crazy. And then the other genus is Heliofrinae. These are just the other ghost frogs found in the same countries, Lesotho, South Africa, and Eswatini. The Table Mountain ghost frog is listed on the Zoological Society of London EDGE species, which is a program used to raise awareness and implement research and conservation of these species.
Yeah, EDGE stands for something special. I just forget what it is.
You got me also. Not going to lie.
It's something. Hold on. It stands for evolutionarily distinct and globally endangered. It's kind of like they're like, it's not quite the IUCN, but it's more like, hey, it's like our amazing species, more or less. Okay. Where they have like a top 100 list and they like focus on them. So it was one of the, I believe, 3 or not 3, but that was higher on the list than a lot of other.
Okay.
It'll bring us to our next group. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hemifractidae. These guys are a family of frogs found in South and Central America. Their eggs are carried on the female's back. You'll find out that a lot of the genera in this group are typically have like backpack, marsupial, carry some type of descriptor in their like familial name.
Okay.
That distinguishes them as I carry my young on my backside. That being said, eggs are carried on the female's backs in most species. From there, the eggs can either develop into toadlets through direct development, skip the tadpole stage altogether, be released into the water after hatching. They'll hatch into tadpoles and be carried on the mother's back to water from there, or the eggs will just be straight deposited into water after fertilization. Some species even enclose their eggs in a pouch until hatched. Those are known as marsupial frogs, which we've talked about a while ago, probably one of our first couple episodes in Neobatrachia.
There you go.
And the males have been observed to actively place the eggs on the back during amplexus. And I'm not sure if we covered amplexus, but that's like the mounting of the male onto the female during like reproduction.
Yes.
Our first group is going to be Cryptobatrachus. These guys are the backpack frogs, since their females carry the egg clutches on their back, like a backpack. They are tree frog-like in habitat. They live in the mountain rainforest of South America. They measure between 1 and 3 inches, so like our standard medium frog size. Their fingers have no webbing, but their toes do, and both their fingers and toes have adhesive pads, but the pads on the fingers are much larger. The males lack vocal sacs, so it's believed that they do not have any type of vocal communication. They're found in Venezuela and Colombia at around 360 to 2,400 meters above sea level, and they are nocturnal, perching on low bushes and rocks in the waterfall spray zones. Our next group is going to be Fritziana.
I hate to be this guy, but I think in the notes you actually missed a genus.
I didn't. We've talked about this in the past episode. I even control F'd our notes page and double checked it.
Flectonotus?
Yeah, the Flectonotus and the Gastrotheca we've already covered in a previous episode. They just kind of, it's one of those things where the resources we use don't exactly speak together in terms of what the most up-to-date family distinguishment is. So the genuses kind of move between families based off of the latest research, and that our sources don't exactly speak to each other. No problem at all. So we're going to move on into Fritziana, really relatively small, only about 7 species, found in Brazil, specifically southeast Brazil, in the of Espírito Santo and Sao Paulo. And these guys actually split from that genus that we talked about a couple weeks ago, Flectonotus, which lives in, I believe, the Andes as well as Trinidad and Tobago. And our next group, Alex,
is Hemipharactus. These are the horned tree frogs. Overall brownish colors, very leaf-like. They have a very pointed snout, as you can kind of see in the picture. Their head basically looks like a leaf, actually. It's kind of cool, like a dead leaf. They are nocturnal. They are native to the humid lowland and highland forest of northern South America. They're very robust-bodied frogs, characterized by a fleshy proboscis, which is that it's kind of like a tubular tongue, or it's kind of like that little bit sticking out from the nose. Fleshy tubercles on the eyelids as well. They're believed to be specialized predators of other frogs, confining them to areas of high frog density, but they have been recorded also feeding on lizards and snails. When threatened, they will open their mouth, exposing a very bright yellow inside, and will bite if that doesn't work. They openly carry the eggs on the back of the females and kind of a gelatinous material until they hatch into froglets. And they are very difficult to breed and keep in captivity, mostly because of the maternal care. Next is the genus Stephania. It is native to the highlands of the Guyana Shield. Some members are known only to be found on a handful of mountains each, so they're pretty sporadic. They tend to be found near streams at low levels on branches, and they are also carrying frogs.
We'll bring us to our next group, yes. Our last family for the day. I didn't format that right. No, I think
that's okay.
Hemisotidae. These guys are the shovel. Alex saw the picture. They are adorable. They're known as the shovel-nosed frogs. Their only genus within this group is Hemisus. They are found in tropical and subtropical sub-Saharan Africa. They are moderate in size, reaching around 30 inches. They have nice round bodies with short legs. They have small, narrow heads with hard, upturned noses. So kind of different from the other frogs talked about who have more wide heads, more flat. They are burrowing frogs. They live mostly underground. So the females
never would have guessed they look like a mole.
Yeah, exactly. The females burrow underground while in amplexes, which I think is the weirdest thing ever. You're carrying another frog on your back and you're burrowing. How, you ask?
Impressive.
Because unlike other burrowing frogs, they burrow using their front limbs and their nose. So we've talked about a lot of other burrowing frogs that use their hind legs to burrow. These guys use their front sides. where the females will then lay their eggs in that underground cavity, staying with them until they hatch into tadpoles, which is shortly after rain. Once the rain has fallen, the female will then dig a burrow towards the water source, which I think is incredible. Where the tadpoles will then metamorphose after hatching. And as I said, they do burrow head first in contrast to other burrowing frogs. Relatively quick lesson for the day. We'll get into our recurring segments, Alex. You want to kick us off? I'll let you do both here since they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay. So today ours is kind of the most wanted and ecology encyclopedia go very much together today. So our most wanted, we're talking about the chestnut blight. It is a fungal disease, Cryphonectria parasitica. It is a fungus native to Southeast Asia, East and Southeast Asia, and was introduced into Europe and North America in the early 1900s. And different strains of this different strains of this have caused significant tree loss in the regions, specifically the American chestnut in North America, as well as the American chinkapin, which is a close relative of the American chestnut, because they are highly susceptible to chestnut blight. Yeah. They look fairly similar. There's a couple very minor differences. They're literally just the difference of a species. They're the same genus. The European chestnut is susceptible, but there's a specific, it's the CHV1 hypovirulence, so the blight-induced tree death is less common. It can also infect other trees like oaks, red maples, staghorn sumac, and shagbark hickory, but these trees typically don't die from it, but they can exhibit orange cankers, which are kind of like just bulges in the bark, and because of that, the fungus can persist in those trees, producing spores to then infect other trees, spread by windborne spores, as well as through the soil, the mycelium of the fungus itself, and even to the point where there are very isolated spots where there are Native American chestnuts that are still alive, but that is pretty much because there are no other infected trees within 10 kilometers or like 6.25 miles of that tree. But as I said, it can spread to other tree species, so it could still possibly get it. There are a lot of very small American chestnuts that do still exist, typically as like the technical term for it is epicormic growth, where it's like they're shoots that grow up from the base of these dead trees, like so from like the stumps of these trees, but these really don't reach the reproductive stage because what the fungus does pretty much is girdles the tree from the inside, where it grows within the conductive tissue of the tree and just kills it from the inside. There are two species of Asian chestnut, the Chinese chestnut and Japanese chestnut, that are resistant to this fungus because they co-evolved with the pathogen. So there has been some work to crossbreed, like hybridize American chestnuts with these chestnuts to make them more resistant to the blight, because there's really not any other way to control the fungus, which this will lead us into our ecology encyclopedia, which is basically, I've titled it The Loss of a Keystone Species.
Yeah, it kind of fits in what we've been talking about the past couple of weeks between keystone and the other ones that are less important.
Yes. So the American chestnut, as I said, before the arrival of the chestnut blight, was the dominant tree within the eastern United States, that the Appalachian region primarily, so the mountain range that dominates the eastern part of the United States. You can see the dark green in the image I pulled up was like the main area, which is where it kind of follows that mountain range, and then out into the foothills as well. And then it kind of had an extended range where it was less concentrated, but still found. And so this was the primary tree within this region, to the point where there's an old saying that a squirrel could get in a chestnut tree in Maine and not leave a chestnut tree until it made it the whole way to Georgia. Like that is how dominant this tree was within the eastern deciduous forests of North America. But said the chestnut blight was introduced in the early 1900s, and that absolutely decimated the American chestnut to the point where there's, as I said, a couple like very small pockets of native American chestnuts that are still existing. Most of them, if they are surviving, they're not really reproducing. And the reason this is such a big loss, where I say loss of a keystone species, is because if you've ever seen a chestnut before, especially the American chestnuts, they produced very large nuts and they produced a lot of them. So the American chestnut was, one, a very drought resistant species. Two, it was pretty much a guaranteed food source because they would not flower until about June. So they were pretty much guaranteed to not flower until after the winter frost. Even that late, like if there was a late frost, they're still after that. They're pretty much into the heart of summer at this point. They don't have to worry about there being a frost. So the American chestnut always produced. And because of that, that's part of the reason why it was such a dominant tree. But it was a huge food source for every living animal throughout the area. Deer, squirrels, bear, even humans would eat the chestnuts because they were so abundant, and they were like the Chinese chestnut, Japanese chestnut. They still produce, but the nuts from them are smaller. And then from what I've been told, they're more bitter. I've never eaten them. Apparently the American chestnuts were much larger and sweeter. And with the loss of that went away. So we lost a major food source for this entire, like, basically half of a country, and like not a small country either.
Yeah, this is the United States.
Yeah. So that was we're still seeing the impacts of that today. For those that hunt, like myself, like deer and bear, like the populations are smaller. The animals themselves are smaller because of this. They lost this very abundant, nutritious food source. And then the trees themselves, because so many of them died, a lot of them were cut down to use for lumber, and they were used for lumber even back in the day because you can kind of see a picture here of what some of these old growth chestnuts, they were massive. They grew quickly, but not in a way where it compromised the tree. They were very sturdy. Like the wood was very strong and sturdy. It had kind of a closed grain, very tight grain in the wood. So it was almost immune to rot. I say almost, nothing is completely immune, but is pretty much immune to rotting. So if you see if you're ever in that region and you find like some historic sites where there's old log cabins, there's a very good chance that the ones that are still standing and still in good shape is because they were built with chestnut wood. And because of the abundance and how quickly they reproduced, they didn't really worry about not having the chestnut. And you think a tree this size, think of the amount of chestnuts that it could produce in a single season, and then multiply that by millions of chestnut trees across the range of this size. So that is losing a keystone species because of the American chestnut. The keystone species that was the American chestnut has really decimated the region ecologically, even today, over 100 years later. Tyler, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I love the American chestnut, and I'm really happy that we're trying to hybridize it with the Oriental chestnut or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Japanese and Chinese chestnut. The American Chestnut Foundation is working to try and produce blight-resistant native stock as well as hybridized American chestnuts with these Chinese chestnuts to try to bring this, like this is the king of the American East Forest, to try to bring it back because of just what it was back in the day. Like I said, the loss of this changed an entire ecosystem forever, pretty much.
Well, with that being said, I'll toss it my way.
Yeah,
And
we'll
I
toss it
will-
back over to you. It was something a
Let's-
little more exciting.
Yeah, we're
Less
talking about
depressing.
frogs.
Dogs.
It's funny because Alex actually already showed a picture of this frog. We're talking the spotted snout burrower, Hemisus guttatus. This is one of those shovel-nosed frogs we were talking about with the nice yellow spots. These guys are found on the coastlands of Eswatini in South Africa.
Yeah.
I actually never heard of Eswatini until today.
I think that is a recent change in the name.
Okay. That's what I thought, because I was like, there were definitely two countries inside of South Africa.
Yes, I believe it used to go by a different name. I don't remember what it is, and I'm not going to say what I think it is because I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But these guys are listed as near threatened on the IUCN's page with a decreasing population trend. They are found in savanna, shrublands, grasslands, as well as wetlands. Their last assessment was in 2016, published in 2017, and is near threatened because although it's fairly widespread with a range in protected areas, it still continues to decline, and the quality of habitat is also declining to the point where it's considered to be severely fragmented within that map that Alex showed, with more than 50% of subpopulations considered to be non-viable. And it should be carefully monitored, since the loss of one or more of those subpopulations could kick it from near threatened into threatened or even an endangered category. They're found anywhere from 0 meters above sea level to 1,000 meters above sea level in the KwaZulu-Natal, which is probably like a state or just area in that region. I'm not a geography guy, I promise, guys. I'm sorry. And the breeding congregations appear to be relatively small and fairly dispersed throughout their area of occurrence. It's relatively secretive, making it difficult to find for researchers. No subpopulation has more than 50% of individuals, and more than 50% of subpopulations are considered non-viable, which I'd assume it doesn't have enough adult population to sustain a stable population.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like to me.
Threats to this guy include housing and urban development, annual and perennial non-timber crops, wood and pulp plantations, which is kind of a big thing in like sub-Saharan Africa, is like the pulp plantations, as well as invasive species, which in this case are unspecified.
Yeah, it seems like the agriculture and aquaculture threats are the main threats.
Yeah. And they do occur in a couple protected areas, and I'm not even give that a try.
No, don't even bother. You're just gonna butcher it.
A game reserve and possibly
Yes.
the White River Nature Reserve. And that coastal subpopulation does occur in some protected areas, such as Umlalazi Nature Reserve, but it's not a substantial area, and is heavily pressured in surrounding catchment. And it also might occur in the Amatakulu Nature Reserve, as well as a wetland park in the south. And there needs to be improved habitat protection, as well as increased studies on population size, distribution, and other trends, such as like disbursement ability, as well as life history. I did not say how long a generation length is.
I don't know if I saw it either.
Nope.
I don't think it's on here. No, they don't have one.
Not researched well enough for that.
Yeah.
All right. And that'll move us into our final segment for the day. That it will be our From the Vault. Today's From the Vault is, let me pull it up, Marmorer adaptability, which is a genus of some group salamanders from the Middle Jurassic found in the United Kingdom, or modern day United Kingdom, I should say. And these guys are among the oldest known salamanders. First described in 1988 when two species were named Framani and Kermaki. And these were mostly disarticulated vertebrae, partial jaws, and partial skull roofing bones, recovered via screen washing in the Kirtlington Quarry in Oxfordshire, United Kingdom. It was a relatively large stem salamander, about 3 centimeters, so over a foot long, and possibly reaching almost 2 feet long.
That's a big salamander.
Right?
Give a hellbender a run for its money.
Which is fine, because these were found in the, Jurassic was kind of like a free-for-all. Especially in aquatic habitats.
Yeah, that's true. It's much warmer.
Yeah, and it looks like they had pretty thick vertebrae as well. Oh, that's a femur bone. Never mind. That's a thick ass femur bone. Thick femur bone. Shoot.
Remember to cut that part.
There's only a couple other members of the family besides the one most recently discovered was M. macaque. Which was found in 2022, so about 40 years after the fact of the other 2 members.
The Isle of Skye.
Yes, and that's all I have for these guys. We're still not quite to the point of from the vault where there's a lot of material.
Yeah, as we get closer to the more recently evolved or the higher abundance of things there are, the more that we see.
Yes.
So, the next major group we get to, the reptiles, there's
a lot.
Because they were the dominant group during the Mesozoic era.
That's all I have for this guy. Alex, anything to add on our lovely Marmoreton?
No, sir.
All right. Well, with that being said, we'll wrap it on up for today. Remember, guys, make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok for shorts, clips, and all the other things. Facebook for news articles, or if I ever decide to post one again on at Life the Complete Story. Wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iHeart, all those places. We post our podcast weekly. And send us an email at lifecompletestory@gmail.com for questions, comments, concerns, rants. Send us an email on your thoughts on Punch the Monkey.
Yeah. Or leave a
comment.
Yeah. We want to hear it.
We'll
what
get
do you
back
think about
to you
Punch
on
the
it.
Monkey? Yeah, and maybe we've been threatening to do this, but I had the thought the other day, maybe this summer we may try to do a couple, if we can make it happen, some in the field YouTube videos and stuff.
There we go.
We'll see what happens.
Some species spotlights on our local flora and fauna.
Indeed. Be great.
And with that being said, Alex, take us out.
Yes, sir. As we say at the end of every episode, keep on learning, learn something new. You'll never know what you find interesting. I've been Alex, and that's been Tyler, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Life the Complete Story, and we will see you next time.
Hit stop button.